All right, let's talk about Stranger Things. It's been this absolute cultural phenomenon for years, right? But now, as we're heading into the grand finale, some people, critics, fans, are starting to point out a few problems. So today, we're going to dive into the biggest criticisms being thrown at the final season, all based on some really popular analysis out there. So here's the big question we're really asking today. In its final chapter, is this beloved show starting to show some cracks? Now look, this isn't about trashing the show, not at all. It's about taking an honest look at some of the creative choices that have, well, left a lot of us just scratching our heads. And we're not just making this up, we're pulling from analysis, like this one from Looper, which flat out says there are, and I'm quoting here, things that just make zero sense. So what does that even mean? Let's get into it, and we're going to start with a huge one, the pacing. Okay, first up, pacing. You've probably noticed, right? The final episodes are massive. They're basically movies. But the big criticism is, do they need to be that long? It almost feels like the creators are on a victory lap, and they just don't want to cut anything. Yeah, someone actually called it the James Cameron school of taking your sweet time. And that kind of nails it, right? The problem is you get these long, drawn-out scenes that are supposed to be emotional, but they don't actually move the story forward. It just ends up feeling like a whole lot of filler. And, oh boy, this is the perfect example. Just look at the desert scene in episode 6. You've got Holly and Max. They leave a cave, then they just wander around the desert. Then they use a spyglass to look back at the exact same cave they just left. And what do? They go back to it. I mean, the show is literally, physically, going in circles. And that frustration is summed up perfectly by this one pretty blunt quote. Look, a lot of shows have pacing problems, that's nothing new, but critics argue this felt different. It felt like, quote, a uniquely stupid way of wasting our time. Ouch. It's just padding that does nothing for the story, nothing for the characters. All right, let's move on to the next point, and this one is a head-scratcher. A huge criticism is that the show has tucked away some absolutely crucial backstory in a place that almost nobody in the global audience will ever get to see. We're talking about a live stage play in London. Yep, the play is called Stranger Things: The First Shadow, and it's not some fan project. It's a full-on prequel based on a story from the Duffer brothers themselves. That means everything in it, like the origin of Vecna and how he got his powers, it's all official canon for the show. And this is where the problem really hits home. Super important plot points, like how Henry Creel even got his powers in the first place, are all explained in this play. But it's estimated that less than 1% of the show's gigantic global audience will have actually seen it. Why would you outsource such critical info? It's a really baffling choice. Okay, so next up, let's talk about repetition. You know, that feeling of, haven't I seen this before? A lot of people are saying the final season leans way too heavily on just recycling its own greatest hits, which is giving longtime fans a serious case of déjà vu. I mean, we all remember this, right? Max escaping from Vecna with Kate Bush's running up that hill blasting. It was epic. It was probably the moment of season 4. Just totally unforgettable, powerful stuff. But then, in season 5, they basically try to do the exact same thing again. And the criticism is that it doesn't feel like clever storytelling anymore. It just feels like a lazy callback. It's like the show just ran out of fresh ideas and decided, hey, let's just play that hit again, hoping we'd all feel the same way. It just doesn't work twice. And it's not just the big plot beats either, it's the visuals too. How many times have we seen the gooey cocoons, the mouth tubes, characters stuck in that moldy goo? What used to be genuinely creepy and super scary has, for a lot of us, just become kind of boring because we've seen it so much. You know, kidnapping kids and dragging them to the Upside Down really shouldn't feel this predictable. So that brings us to the characters themselves. This is another big area of criticism, the idea that these huge emotional moments and character arcs are either feeling totally unearned or they've just been dragged out for way too long. Here's a perfect example. Think about this. Max wakes up from a coma. It's been a year and a half. The last thing she knew, Hopper was dead. So when she sees him standing there, alive, what's her reaction? Nothing. Literally nothing. No shock, no big reunion. It just makes you feel like the show is trying to juggle way too many storylines, and these really important emotional moments are just getting completely lost. And check out this comparison. Remember when Robin came out back in season 3? It was handled so well. It was just one scene, super sweet, really matter of fact. But then you have Will's story, which has been building up for, what, 3.5 years? By the time we finally get there, a lot of that dramatic tension is just gone. For many, it felt like a payoff that should have happened a whole season earlier. Okay, finally, let's talk about the vibe, the feel of the show. This might be the most obvious criticism of all. The feeling that the show has started to lose that signature 80s aesthetic, that small-town Hawkins feel. And it's mostly for one very, very visible reason. I mean, just look at them. Look at the cast in season 1, and then look at them now. It's just a fact of life, right? It took a long time to make this show, and these actors have grown up. They visibly aged out of playing young teens. And that suspension of disbelief, seeing them as kids in the 80s, it's getting really, really hard for a lot of viewers. And this quote just puts it so bluntly. Everyone looks way too old. The actors look like the cool young adults they are, ready for their next big Hollywood movie. And the whole feel of the show has shifted from Indiana 1980-something to something that feels more like, and I'm quoting here, Neo Los Angeles 2025. That original charm, it's getting tougher and tougher to hold on to. So when you add it all up, the pacing issues, the confusing canon, the repetitive storylines, and this kind of fading vibe, you have to ask, can Stranger Things still stick the landing? Can the grand finale actually deliver a satisfying conclusion? I think that's the question on every single fan's mind as we head into the end. The legacy of one of the biggest shows on television is literally hanging in the balance.